We've got two speakers tonight. Fred Reidinger is from the Brevard Club, and he is a long-term youth exchange person and a committed advocate for that, and always my source of information for that and keeping us involved. And so I appreciate that. And Michael Stevenson is our Ryla person, and this year he's our Interact person. And I think he'd like to have us name somebody else as an Interact chair for the district for this next year. So if you got any interest, just let me know. Youth is a very, very important thing of what we do in Rotary. And it is obviously the future of the world. And as we look at peace and things like that, the things we do with youth is so important for that. So I'm just thrilled. I'm very big on it, very supportive. I'm very big on the youth protection too. And if you've got a club event and you're cleaning up the side of the road, anybody on that crew should have done the youth protection course. If you're passing out books in schools, anybody passing out books should be through the youth protection course. If they're interacting with interactors, if any interaction at all with youth, any of the big projects, they need to be doing that. It's important. It's a 20-minute to 40-minute, depending on what else interrupts you, course. It's not rocket science. We all pass it, but it does bring some things forward in your mind and tells you how we ought to be acting. So I highly commend that to you. And so I'm not sure who's going to kick it off, but I'll turn it over to Mike and Fred. So Mike's going to turn it off. Good.
Yeah, Fred and I talked about it. We're going to do Ryla, then youth protection, then youth exchange, and then we're going to get back to youth protection.
Wonderful.
So I am going to start off with Ryla here, and I've got a few slides I'd like to share with you all. All right, so Ryla here. What I want to cover with you all today is kind of very briefly what it is, when it is, and what it is that actually goes on at Ryla. What are we going to try to change for this year, or Ken's year actually, 2022, and then what can you do, and what do we need you to do to make it a success? So let me start out by just generally speaking, Ryla's been around this district since 1961. And in 2019, the last time we had a Ryla, we went to a new format, which was a long weekend kind of a format where we get the kids out of school, we get the kids after school on Thursday afternoon, and we keep them until about lunchtime on Sunday. And so that's what we're going to do again this year. One thing I want to point out here, if you look at the name on the slide, it says Rotary Youth Leadership Academy. If you look in the RI literature, it primarily says Rotary Youth Leadership Award. And we went to a different name here a couple of years ago because I think it emphasizes more what we think Ryla is about and what we try to do with Ryla. It's not an award for good kids necessarily. It's an academy where we're going to try to teach leadership skills. So for Ryla for 2022, we're planning on having a traditional, non-socially distanced, full body contact Ryla, assuming that we're allowed to. And right now that looks like it's probable. So that's what we're going for. It's going to be the same time as the last one we had in 2019, which is March, the last weekend in March, where we got a shot at getting some pretty good weather. The cost is going to be the same. It's going to be $300 per child or per student. It's going to be at the same location at the Blue Ridge Assembly in Black Mountain. And what we need to have is more kids. In 2019, when we had this, we had 85 kids. In 2020, when we had to pull the trigger and cancel it, about 3 weeks before we were going to have it, we had about 125 kids. And we would like to have even more than that. The facility can handle many, many kids. I don't know what their limit is, but probably can handle at least 300 kids. So the goals of Ryla, what are we trying to do there? Well, we're trying to teach leadership skills. and leadership techniques in such areas as listening, knowing how to participate when some activity is going on, problem solving, interpersonal skills of various kinds. And I think it's important when you think about leadership in the context of Ryla to understand that it's not just for current leaders in high schools, or it's not just for kids that are on a track to be executives and manage teams of people. I think you need to look at the skills of leadership much more broadly than that. Anybody who attends this is going to learn some things about communicating. They're going to learn some things about participating. They're going to learn things that are going to make them that more valuable employees, better parents, better skilled at any kind of interactive thing that they intend to do. And we hope they will leave with the confidence they need to react or just speak up in the classroom or the workplace or whatever. So that's an important thing. And that's kind of why one of the reasons we changed the name to Academy. So in addition to teaching those kind of skills and techniques, we're there to help build kids' confidence and let them have fun. It is a good time, despite the fact that we keep them very busy. They're going to have a good time, and we hope that they make lasting friendships that will stick with them for a very long time. And finally, one of our goals is to create Rotary awareness. So our approach to teaching is primarily experiential, as opposed to putting kids down in an auditorium and having somebody lecture them. We tried to build a program where they learn by doing things. And the way they do things when they are at Ryla are in a small team kind of format. As soon as the kids arrive at Ryla, we break them up into groups of 10 to 12 kids, and they will stay with that same team for the duration. Now, they'll have chances to socialize with everybody else that's there and form some relationships outside the team, but building that little family for the weekend is critical. The other thing that's critical with the small team format is that every small team is going to have a Rotarian coach. Now, this is going to be somebody that has some life experience, and they will be involved in all of the team activities. They won't necessarily do some of the physical stuff the kids might do, but at the end of each activity or skill forming exercise we put them through, Rotarian coaches will sit down with the kids in their small group and they will debrief. And what did you learn from this experience? What did you notice about the way people behave? What are the takeaways from what you just did? And so our basic program to teach these leadership skills is primarily around those small team activities. And here a little later, I'm going to give you just a quick look at a one-page version of our program, so you'll see how busy we keep these kids. So, keeping them busy is one of our goals here. They're going to work when they're there. They're going to be busy all the time. We're going to give them enough time to rest. We're going to make sure that they have enough food. And there will be special events for them to just socialize and be high school kids. But primarily, they're gonna come away from this weekend. They will be exhausted when they're finished. So where's this all happen? It happens at the YMCA's Blue Ridge Assembly in Black Mountain. I imagine a lot of you have been there. Our district has done a lot of things there over the years. That building and the picture there that you see in the background, that is the main dormitory that we will use for the kids. It's called Eureka Hall. It's got old buildings. Some of these buildings have been around for 100 years, but they've been well taken care of and they've been refurbished. So they're old buildings with modern amenities in them. The kids that come to this will sleep in a dorm room, most likely with 3 other kids. Each of the dorm rooms will have its own bathroom, and we will keep the gender separated by floor. The grounds around the Blue Ridge Assembly are extensive. They have many acres there, hiking trails and various activity areas. You're able to walk to all venues. So, once they get there, they're on their feet a lot, and they'll complain about it, but they're going to do a lot of walking. And the other 2 pictures that you see there are a couple of the facilities they have there. The one on the left is our confidence builder, where we get kids to climb up that tower, along with the urging of all their friends and their teammates cheering them on. And many kids who didn't believe that was possible for them to do succeeded. And that was one of their main takeaways, is their ability to do things they didn't think they could do. The other little picture there is some kids doing one of our small group activities, or they're on a balance platform, and they're trying to figure out how to get all the kids on there without the thing tipping. And what you see when that kind of process goes on is it's interesting to watch the way the kids talk with each other and the way leaders emerge. And sometimes you're really surprised at the kid that really ends up being the leader, the kid that has all that potential but has never quite shown it yet. So those are the kinds of things we do. We have our meals, 3 meals a day in a large dining room, and we'll have activities going on in the dining room at the same time. So for 2022, we've got a few goals in mind that we're going to strive toward. I'm not sure how we're going to get all these done or not, but we're going to be working toward them. First of all, we learned a lot of things in our first Ryla in 2019. And so we've got a lot of ways to expand and improve the program. Those were actually already built into the program agenda that we had for 2020. And we're going to carry a lot of that stuff forward. We want to encourage for 2020 more club support. In our district in 2019, 33 out of 48 clubs sent kids to Ryla. And our goal is to explain to the clubs what a fantastic deal Ryla is for the kids in their area, and encourage every club to send a couple of kids. We're going to try to encourage young Rotarian coaches. That's one of the things we noticed in 2019. We had Rotarian coaches, many of them were, like me, 75 years old. And what we discovered is that the younger coaches related better to the kids and the kids to them. So one of our goals for this year is going to try to focus on getting more young Rotarian coaches. A big one here that I want to really start on is expanding the reach of recruiting. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide we get to here. But there's a lot of clubs that are kind of on autopilot the way they go about getting kids, and that typically is going to their Interact club and asking who wants to go and signing them up. Well, there's a lot more opportunity than just your Interact club. There's nothing at all wrong with recruiting Interact kids, but there's a lot of other kids out there that could really benefit from the experience and could help the overall effectiveness of the program. So the other thing is we'd like to start working on a Ryla website and establishing more of a social media presence. And one of the keys to that is good video documentation. If you look around the internet, you'll see lots of clubs that have a Ryla site. And if you look at the video documentation on it, it's fantastic. And our kids would look the same way if we had the same kind of video. So, and that's the way you market to young people these days. That's the way you convince them that it's something they ought to be doing. All right, so how can you help? Well, the main thing is we count on the clubs to bring us some young leaders. And where do you go to do that? You go anywhere the kids are. You know, high schools, early colleges, private schools, home schools, church groups. Explain the goals of the Ryla program and show them the program. I've had a couple of years of experience doing this, and I'm gonna bring up the program here, not to go through the whole thing, but just briefly to kind of show you what one of our good props is. So this, what I'm bringing up now, is a one-page version of our program from 2020. And I don't actually expect y'all to be able to read that. I can probably make it a little bit bigger. Oh, I can't either. Oh yeah, there we go. But the point of this is this. If you go into high school administration and you explain what we're trying to do at Ryla, and you show them this program and show them that the kids are going to be busy learning stuff for the whole weekend, and they're going to be with adult mentors, they're going to be with other like-minded youth from around the district, this is a no-brainer for them. This is a fantastic opportunity to send their kids to. And not only does it help you explain or help you recruit for this Ryla, this experience, this prop here is a great entree to any school that you're not working with. If you're wondering how to break into a school that you don't have an Interact Club with or any strong relationship, go there with a Ryla pitch. Show them this as an entree to Rotary. It'll work. I guarantee you it'll work. These teachers love this. So when I talk about expand the reach of recruiting, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about going out to high schools that you haven't been to before. Do you know how many high schools there are in our district? David and Wechter and I put together a list before last year's Ryla. There's 129 high schools within the borders of our district. And I'm venturing to guess that between all our clubs, we probably have relationships with 40, maybe 50 of them. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. So when you're asking for kids, make sure you tell the administrators you're looking for kids who may have potential, have not yet shown it as proven leaders. These teachers and these administrators and counselors, they know who these kids are. They can spot them in an instant. And those are the kind of kids that are really going to get some benefit from this kind of a program. So what I'd ask you to do is budget for more participation than last time. Now, I know that some of your clubs have left money in the Ryla account to sponsor kids in this coming Ryla year, and that's great, but don't be hesitant to add to it. Send us some more kids. The more kids we have, the better program we will have, the more money we will have to spend on some of the important things in the program. And then help us find coaches. We need to have some of these young Rotarian coaches. We need coaches in both genders. So, you know, find us some of those coaches. And I will tell you right now that if you're wondering about some of the, what a coach does and all that, if you go to the district website's homepage, on the left-hand side, you will see a series of buttons. One of them says Ryla. If you click that Ryla button, you'll get two files appear. One of them will say Ryla for Rotarians, and the other will be Ryla for students. Go to that button that says Ryla for Rotarians. It has all the information you would ever want to know about Ryla. What is the definition of a point of contact? What do you tell the parents? What do you tell the students? All that stuff is out there. A lot of information. So here's the timeline for this coming year. We're looking for clubs to assign a Ryla point of contact in July, as soon as the new incoming president gets in. This is a critical point. This is one of the determinants of success, is for each club to get somebody that wants Ryla to succeed and wants to send kids. They need to be available at the last minute. There's lots of communication that has to go on between the Ryla team and the clubs regarding the students they're sending. And it's critical that we have a point of contact identified. And if you don't identify one, our fallback's going to be the youth services chair. And if you don't have one of those, it's going to be the president. So in September and October, when the kids get back to school, we hope to begin recruiting. In January, February timeframe, we hope to have some coaches selected. That's not to say to wait till then to get them on our list. As soon as you identify somebody that wants to be a coach and that you think's a qualified person, let me know right away. February 28th will be the deadline for applications to Ryla. And then Ryla will be on March 24th through 27th, the last weekend in March. So that's all that I prepared to talk about. So if anybody has any questions, I will be happy to address them.
Mike, I have a question. You said before that experience is a most desirable trait among the coaches. Well, let me give you a little bit of my experience, and that is that if you approach the students through their guidance counselors, through their faculty, and let them know that they have been identified as a student who would really benefit from this program and look at it as an honor to be selected, I think you'll find that the students will pay a lot more attention than if you just say, we'd like you to express your interest in joining this Ryla program. That's my 2 cents.
That's really good advice. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, one other place of source for encouragement for students is Ryla Alumni. They go back fired up. Now, the problem is we didn't have one this last year, so some of them may be gone. But if you can identify Ryla Alumni, they will talk it up because what they got out of it, it's amazing.
I was going to say the same thing. One of our Ryla alumni came back and helped us recruit 4 people from our church to go. And then, of course, unfortunately, Ryla got canceled. So they didn't end up going, but they might be able to go this year.
Mike, I had a question about what is the age for this? I'm new to this. So what is the age group that you are inviting to this event?
This is for any high school kid.
High school. Okay.
Freshmen, juniors, sophomores,
Okay.
junior, seniors. I think it's possible that we might want to narrow that down at some point in time. That is a very wide age group with very different developmental characteristics between, a freshman and a senior. So at some point, what many clubs do is narrow it down. And some clubs only recruit juniors.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll see. Right at this point, we're just interested in getting as many kids to have this experience as we can.
I think going back to the guidance counselors, identifying the kids, you might have some very mature 9th graders who can help, continue the momentum the next year and maybe come back as, alumni of that program for the, to help promote for the following years, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that would be great.
Mike, I had a question about recruiting young leaders. Is there an interview process that they have to go through? I'm sure there is. And what is the cost?
Well,
I guess Ryla pays for their cost of the camp.
Well, yeah, each club pays for the student, the $300.
Right.
And that covers all the costs. So, and plus we get a little district donation every year.
I was referring to the counselors. You're trying to recruit young counselors. Yeah. What about them? Is there an interview process?
Well, I would like for there need to be one. We haven't had that many people signing up or wanting to be counselors to have had to do that at this point. And if we get a lot of qualified candidates, then we're going to have to do something to vet them. I really don't have my mind around exactly how we're going to do that yet.
But there is a background check on them.
Yeah, we were talking about youth protection, or Ken was earlier on, and anybody that will be up there for more than dropping off a kid at Black Mountain is going to have to have the youth protection course. And if they're staying there, they're going to also have to have a background check.
Yeah.
It's mandatory.
Paul's question, I don't think we answered. He asked the volunteers that go up, do they have to pay for themselves? And
No,
how
they
much
do
is
not.
that? Okay,
Volunteers are covered. Ryla pays for that.
excellent.
Do they have any kind of orientation to prepare them for coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things we're probably going to tweak a little bit this year is the Rylas, the coaches, as I said, have a really critical role. And there's an art to debriefing these things. And so we have a manual for Ryla coaches that have been developed, and we will pair that with an experienced debriefer, if you will, somebody that has a lot of experience in doing that kind of thing, and train them. And it'll probably be done, now that we all know about Zoom, we'll probably do it via Zoom, maybe in a couple of sessions before Ryla.
Mike,
Would you take,
You've done a great job with this. Probably time to pass it on to Fred to give him a chance. And then we can come back at the end for questions about the various topics we've got. But great job.
One more thing.
Fire away.
I encourage you all to book me or somebody on the Ryla team to come and talk to your club about some of these same things I did. We're available to do it either in person or however we have to.
So I'm Fred Reidinger. I'm the district chair for the youth exchange program, and it's a much more targeted program. We are working with high school age students to go on exchange to a foreign country or come from a foreign country to live with us here in Western North Carolina. I wanted to start by with a testimonial from a student who did this and is willing to talk about it.
I was a Jewish girl in a Catholic school, a third-year Spanish student surrounded by hundreds of kids who didn't speak English. I was the tallest, whitest kid in that Peruvian high school courtyard, and I was getting dizzy. My face started to burn, my ears felt like they were full of cotton, sounds muffled and distant. My vision started to blur, and then I was out. That's right, I passed out at my Peruvian high school on the first day of school, in the middle of a school-wide assembly. There's no doubt about it. I was truly out there. So as a kid, I never really liked sitting in a classroom doing regular school stuff. I always had big dreams of getting out and seeing the world, having great adventures. So when I heard about the Rotary Youth Exchange Program, I was intrigued. My neighbor works with Rotary. About a week before my sophomore year, he told me about a weekend retreat where I could go to learn more about exchange. He said that all of the international exchange students living in Central Ohio would meet up with us, the kids interested in learning about becoming exchange students. I turned to my dad and said, "Daddy, I'll go to the retreat if I can bring a friend with me." He laughed a little and he was like, "Kara, if you need to bring a friend to the weekend retreat, you're not ready to be an exchange student." I knew he was right. About a week later, I was awkwardly getting into the car with my neighbor and his wife, an older couple I did not really know, and we were on our way to Camp Mary Orton. As the car came to the halt in a gravel driveway, I looked out the window and saw a group of teens laughing and speaking in an amazing array of accents. I felt a knot grow in my stomach. It was a moment of truth for me. I opened the car door, stepped out, and I walked right into my future. A mere 24 hours later, I left Camp Mary Orton with an incredible group of new friends from all around the globe and the quiet determination that I was going to go for it. I was going to spend a year as a Rotary exchange student. About 10 months later, with 2 large suitcases by my side, I said a tearful goodbye to my parents and siblings in the Columbus airport, leaving behind everything I had ever known to begin an 11-month odyssey in Lima, Peru. Imagine stepping off that plane in the Lima International Airport. All I knew was there would be a Peruvian family, my new family, somewhere out there in that crowd holding a sign with my name on it. I stepped out of the immigration line into a sea of unfamiliarity, nervously scanning the crowd. Next thing I knew, a little 4-year-old boy about that high ran out and hugged my legs, yelling, "Caroline, ven conmigo, acá está tu nueva familia." Yeah, I had no idea what that meant, but I kind of got the gist of it. He was about to introduce me to my new family. We drove through the crowded streets of the sprawling city. Their Spanish was way too fast for me to understand. Everything looked different and exciting. I had no idea where we were going, what this family would be like, or how to behave. Cute picture, huh? All I knew was it was an adventure, you know? It was exactly the adventure I'd signed up for. During my 11 months in Peru, I lived with 3 different families. I attended a high school and later a college, and I became fluent in a language that had previously resided only in textbooks. I became an ambassador for American culture and an expert in all parts of the English language. I became a source for curious Peruvians, like my 20-year-old host brother, who one day came up to me in the living room and asked, "Caroline, what does it mean when someone says, fo shizzle my nizzle?" I know, except, you know, he said it in Spanish, so it sounded more like, "Caroline, ¿qué significa fo shizzle my nizzle?" And, you know, like, what do you say to that, really? Yeah, that was a good one. During my 11 months in Peru, I came to truly appreciate the saying, exchange isn't just a year in your life, it's a life in a year. I lived with 3 different host families. This is my first one, my 3 beautiful Peruvian sisters, a little 5-year-old brother, and my 2 Peruvian parents. This is my 3rd family, another really generous, loving family who shared their small house with me, my 2 Peruvian siblings, 2 Peruvian grandparents, and an aunt. Graduated from Peruvian high school. Like I said, I'm definitely the whitest person at that school. I spent 50 days traveling around the country with the 39 other exchange students living in Lima last year. Here we are overlooking the Incan capital city of Cusco, sandboarding through the dunes of Ica, gathered in front of the world's most inappropriately named lake, Titicaca, and hiking through the Andes Mountains. I visited the lost land of the Incas, Machu Picchu, not once but twice. I became fluent in another language. When I took this picture, I'd only been in Peru for about 5 weeks, and I was already taking full pages of Spanish notes in biology class. I tried new foods. These are 2 classic Peruvian dishes, which, by the way, I know how to cook. So if you're ever interested in some Peruvian cuisine, let me know. This picture was taken my first day in Peru at a Peruvian Independence Day festival. That's a great example of classic Peruvian dress. And I learned to navigate this crazy bus system that drove through the streets of a city of 8 million people. I made some new friends, little animals like this monkey, sloth, I know, llama, and the not so adorable and actually quite terrifying snake. The final test of my risk-taking adventure of a year came in May when our group journeyed into the Peruvian rainforest. As we traveled down the Amazon River, one of my friends thought it might be a fun idea to take a swim in the river. You know, the piranha-infested Amazon River with the eels and the alligators, yeah, the Amazon River. So she asked our river guide if we could, and he shrugged and said, "If you want to, go right ahead." My friends began jumping in one by one to the Amazon River. All I could think about were the reasons that I might have to skip that adventure. Didn't have a swimsuit. All my other clothes were already damp from the humidity of the rainforest. And I didn't really feel like swimming. Plus, also there are piranhas. But as I watched my friends splash through the murky waters, I knew what I had to do. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I kicked off my shoes, walked to the edge of the boat, and I jumped into the Amazon River. So when the opportunity to speak at the TEDx Youth Columbus conference came up, my first reaction was, no way. I'm not good in front of people, I get nervous, I'm so busy with school and college applications and everything else. But then I thought about stepping out of the car that day at Camp Mary Orton. And I thought about walking through that Lima airport looking for my family. And I thought about standing at the edge of that boat on the Amazon River. And I reconsidered my answer. I knew it was a risk, and I was very afraid. But if my year in Peru taught me anything, it's this. Unless it's illegal or immoral, always say yes. So here I am. My year in Peru taught me the ultimate lesson in living. You only live once, but if you truly live, once is enough. Thank you.
All right. I think the kids speak much better than I do for the program. The reason you were hearing Columbus, Ohio is because the only way we managed to do this program in our district in Western North Carolina is because we team up with 12 districts from Michigan and Ontario, Canada, to Orlando, Florida, and we do this together. And that's what allows us to exchange with 25 different countries all over the world because we have Rotary volunteers from all those 12 districts who manage to have relationships that allow us to have safe and productive exchange with all of those different countries. So as you can see from Caroline, it's really rather transformative what happens. And it's also rather targeted. It's one student at a time. It's not like we're working with large groups of people. We are working with, in any typical year, it's 6 or 8 exchange students that are coming in, 6 or 8 exchange students that are going out. So that's what we are trying to maintain. We've been essentially on hold for 2 years because of the pandemic and Rotary International wanting to make sure everything is done carefully and safely as with everything else. So the exchange program is suspended until June of 2022. So we're about a year from actually having students get on airplanes. There's 2 different versions of this program. One is the short-term exchange, and that's a summer program where Rotary essentially just acts as a clearinghouse, pairing up students from here with a student in a foreign country. And let's take France as an example. You have an interest in going to France, and so we pair you up with a family in France who has a son or daughter, same gender, that is interested in coming to the US. And so you travel there in June for 4 weeks, and then that student travels back with you to your home for 4 weeks in July. Some version of that, it's not set in stone, the timing of it, but it's something that resembles that. So a short-term summer exchange, and we use all of our techniques for vetting host families in the same way that we do for the long-term exchanges. So we're not going to have any exchange students show up in August for the school year for the long-term program this coming August because it's been suspended. But we are going to start the process of finding exchange students to go out to foreign countries next August, because essentially the program is about a 3-year program. You start with the application process in the fall, and we do interviews, and then we do a lot of different things with the students to try and prepare them for almost a whole year ahead of their actually going on exchange. So here's a photo of the crew of students from the last group we sent out. This is not just our 7670 kids, but at AB Tech, we actually host the Charlotte district and the Eastern Tennessee district. And so this was all of the outbound students that went on exchange in 2019, 2020. So they're the one I can see every one of these faces, and it reminds me of the amazing scramble we had to get them back last spring, when all of a sudden everything started to shut down and no planes were flying, and they have adventures to tell that are very different from the average exchange. What we here's the crew. This is our district kids from the year before that went out on exchange. We also, every one of these has an incredible year-long story to tell, and it's pretty much affected them in a profound way, and it also affects the host families they stay with in a profound way. And I would venture to say almost all of them are still very close to at least one of the host families that they lived with. And the same is true for all the exchange students who come here and stay with families here in Western North Carolina. And so it has quite an effect, a ripple effect, so to speak, with the club that sponsors them and the host families that take them in, and the students themselves, and then their own families, and creates a lot of cross-cultural things that continue for years. I mean, I have personally, because of the program, I don't think I can hear a news story anywhere on the planet where I don't relate to someone personally who I know is affected by what's going on where they are. But essentially, the main thing we were doing when we're training the students is pointing out kind of what Carolyn was saying about bringing a friend to Camp Mary Orton. It was like, if you aren't actually capable of being in charge of yourself, you're not a really good candidate for the program. The training culminates in a large gathering we do up in Columbus, Ohio, which is sort of the epicenter of all this multi-district. And that's Otterbein University, and that's 90 students in early July who are getting ready within the next 4 weeks to get on a plane to go to a foreign country. And so they are here meeting all of the other students who are going to the same country. So they've got a peer group and all of the other students who are coming from their same areas. So there's a whole lot of connection going on here, and that's just the US side of things. So we're okay. That's a great weekend. It's a lot of real fun things that happen. Well, so, what can you do as Rotarians? We need to find host clubs for these exchange students. They're here for the whole year. The Rotary Club sponsors them. This is a picture of, this is Ana Maria Garcia Zabala from Spain. And she is being greeted at the airport by lots of Black Mountain Rotarians and her first host family. And she lived there in 2019, 2020. Great kid. But so she had a Rotary counselor, and Bill Bauman is with a Rotary club in Black Mountain was the liaison with a club. What we're asking the clubs to do is to sponsor a student, and what that entails is to a degree is finding host families and also coming up with an allowance, because we're trying to give the students a stipend once a month, perhaps about $100, so that they have spending money, so they don't have to go back to their parents or to their host parents to ask for money to go to the coffee shop or go see a movie or do fun things with their friends. But mostly what we're trying to do is get the Rotary Club to create a situation where the student is just, inserted into Black Mountain culture. I mean, this is Anna as part of the high school basketball team and hanging out at a campfire, eating pizza. I mean, just really American things going on here. One of the things that you get as a benefit then is a student who can do programs with your club. This is Belize Carazo, who from Turkey, who was one of the exchange students that my Brevard Club sponsored, and she's doing a program for us, telling us about where she's from in Turkey. And, I'm still in touch with her now. She's an architecture student in University of Milan. One of the other things we do is typically we're doing some sort of an activity with all of the exchange students every 6 weeks or so. This is a group photo of one of my favorite events, the Blowing Rock Rotary Club. Every year until everything got suspended for probably 20 years running, hosted a ski weekend where they brought all of our kids. This is actually 4 districts worth of exchange students all coming together, and they're all skiing at Appalachian Ski Mountain together for the weekend. And this is the home of one of the Rotarians, where we had a really nice big potluck dinner afterwards, where they all introduced themselves and talked about where they were from, and the whole Blowing Rock Club was there to learn more about them. And I would encourage Rotary clubs all over Western North Carolina to think about maybe doing something like that during the course of the year with the exchange students. We also, as a district, will drag them to other things. This is our kids and the East Tennessee kids at the Interact conference in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, where we're doing a commercial for youth exchange to 500 plus Interact students from all over Eastern Tennessee, so that they get a sense of what that they can sign up for this too. This is a great program, and you should think about doing it yourself. And we also do, we offer a couple of different big bus tour excursions. This is one up the East Coast, and all of the 12 Rotary districts in the Ohio Erie multi-district send students to this, and that's in the spring. And then at the end of the school year in June, there's another big trip that takes them for 2 weeks all over the West to see all of the wonderful things that are out there. And it's not even just a chance to see the West. It's a chance to see the West with people your own age from every corner of the planet. So I just think it's a wonderful opportunity for these kids. And anyway, I have one other little short video I want to show, just to
Das hier ist mein Sektor. Das hier ist das wichtigste Gerät des Küstenwächters. Das Gerät und das Gerät. Überlebensradar.
Mayday, Mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
All right. That's just there to remind you that not only do these kids benefit from an exchange of culture, but by the time they're done, they're fluent in another language. So one of the other benefits of all that. All right, so just to wrap that up, then this was a little collage one of the kids did after the ski weekend we did up in Blowing Rock. And I think it really helps to sum up. I mean, this is in January, so they've been here for about 6 months at that point. And at that point, you know, she's saying, how did I fall in love with so many people at once? And they stay bonded from then on. They're all staying in touch with each other. They're, you know, 5 years later, when they're university age students, they're couch surfing with each other on 5 continents. And it's, you know, it just creates a bond that stays with you for a long time. So I'm a real proponent of it. This is one of the events that we do, and it's in southern Kentucky on Lake Cumberland, where we gather everybody together. So with that, I will leave it for if anybody has questions.
By the way, you did something very interesting with 2 exchange students after things shut down, and you invited a student, a young lady who was in Spain at the time, and another young lady who was in France to give a talk to our club in Brevard. I thought that was really, you know, a very creative way of making lemonade out of lemons. They decided to stay in the country and not travel back to their home country. So you might want to make a comment about that.
Well, I do think that the fact that we're all fluent in Zoom now means that we can open up this format to where we are bringing in, you know, guest students from, you know, all different corners of the world, as long as we just catch them in a good sleep cycle where they can, you know, add in to a program here and there, wherever they are. And we've done some of that with the kids because they're all very frustrated by the fact that there aren't things going on. They're not doing programs in their own districts welcoming new students. And so we've had 50, 60, 70 students on Zoom calls where they're just catching up with one another, trying to make sure they know how to stay in touch with each other and telling stories about what was going on. So, I mean, it's a very connective program. I would encourage all of you, just quickly, I want to make sure anybody hears anything from any student that has an interest in doing this to please forward that on to me so that we can get them funneled into the right places for applications and interviews. And the timing of the long-term program would be to start those applications in September for next August. And then the short-term program, probably a little later than that. You can make an application through the holidays and into the winter to do a short-term exchange next summer for 2022.
What I can do is send to each of you a navigation to get to the course. The hardest thing about the youth protection course is finding it. And I have had a lot of my fellow Rotarians give up before they did. And like anything else, once you know how to do it, it's easy. So I will send each of you the navigation link, instructions on how you do it. And Ken, if you want me to do something to get that disseminated more broadly, I will do that. But if any of you have taken this course before, and I took it back in, I think 2019. If you haven't been back to look at it since then, it is immensely improved since 2019. It is fun to take. It is easy to take. And, yeah, you might get a question or two wrong, but, that's informative. It helps you. So it's an important thing to take, not only for what you personally learn from it, but as a Rotarian, as a citizen of this country and of this state, you have responsibilities. You're a mandated reporter. And if you see something that looks suspicious to you, you are required by law to report it. And so it helps to know what those things are that you might be looking for. It also helps to know what you do if there is some incident. Who do you go to? So those are some of the main takeaways out of the course. I can do more if you want me to, Ken. I don't know how we're doing.
I tell you what, John Brown has suggested a good suggestion. Why don't you send the link to everybody's registered for this, and then also to all the presidents-elect? Then each club would have access to it, and we can just refer back to them. Both of you, thank you very much. Great job tonight. You got the interest. I'm actually going to be asking them to do a little 5-minute thing at the district conference, in a rapid fire session that we're going to have too. They don't know about that yet. But thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for what you do. Youth is extremely important. We can make a difference in the world with what we do with youth. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Billy. Thank you so much as well. And all of you, go forth and do good.
I have already logged in